Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we've got a very cool Godzilla figure to check out. This is a brand new, or at least as far as I'm aware, a brand new Bandai Godzilla figure. It is Godzilla 2004, and it's a very cool new style of figure that Bandai has out that I had never seen before, where it's almost like your traditional Bandai type figure as far as the quality goes, but it looks as though it's got more articulation than you used to see on the Bandai figures. As far as the packaging goes, you can see it looks really good. You've got a nice shot of the figure down there. Again, the window area to see it, and then of course the Godzilla and Bandai logo up there. Nice side view here, profile for Godzilla. And on the back you can see Godzilla 2004, Mecha Godzilla 2002, and I think there's also a Godzilla -1 like this that is out. And then here on the side again, Godzilla 2004 action figure, articulated action figure basically. So let's pop this box open and check it out. And here is our Godzilla figure, and as you can see, it actually looks pretty cool. A little shiny, but still pretty cool. It also comes with a different lower jaw that does feature the atomic breath of Godzilla, so that's kind of cool. And the articulation is basically a whole bunch of ball joints for the most part, or at least so far that's what I've been able to figure out, because it actually comes in a few different pieces and you have to kind of put them all together before completing the Godzilla. But again, looking pretty neat, so let's jump to a closer look and dive into this one a little further. So starting up here at the head sculpt of Godzilla, you can see it looks pretty decent. Again, the detail is definitely fairly nice looking, fairly vibrant. It's obviously not going to be nearly as high quality as you would see on like one of the SH Monster Arts or something like that. But for what it is, it's fairly nicely done, and I would think maybe with a repaint, something that's not quite so shiny, not so glossy, it could look even better, because again, the detail, a little muted on the snout, but the detail is there for the most part. I think the glossiness of the figure kind of shines the detail away here on camera. The eyes are nicely painted, which is pretty cool. You can see a reddish tone and a black pupil, which might even have a little white spot there as well to kind of give it the eye shine. It's hard to really tell. You can see the ears of Godzilla sculpted out, and we do actually have an articulated jaw, but as you can see, you don't have a whole lot as far as, how you can articulate it. You've got very limited articulation in the jaw. We can see the teeth are all sculpted out through the course of the mouth. You can also see the tongue sculpted and painted in there. The teeth are painted pretty nicely for what they are, but obviously they're not super high quality. They're no SH Monster Arts or anything like that, but considering the inside of the mouth is all dark colors, the teeth look pretty good because they're highlighted nicely with the dark background behind them. But again, not too bad, but not too great. Overall, though, I would say it's pretty decent and pretty similar to the standard Bandai Godzilla figures. You do also have articulation in the neck, which you can see. You can go left and right and forward and back, so you have a little extra articulation. Let me get a better grip on the figure. Forward and back, and again, you can swivel left and right. I don't think it can swivel all the way around. Maybe it can. Oh yeah, actually it can. So you can swivel the entire thing around if you choose to. As you lead back here, you start to see the spines of Godzilla pick up, and you can see they have a nice white tone that basically highlights the outer edges of the spines. The texturing looks okay on them, but not anything to really write home about. Again, as you move down, you still see the shininess of the figure is kind of awkward, because I've never seen, unless it's Godzilla coming up out of the water, he never really looks too shiny, and some of the areas definitely have the detail kind of drowned out a little bit, like right here you can see it's definitely a little washed out. Moving down into the chest of Godzilla, again the texturing looks okay, but like in between there's a little area where there's not much in the way of skin detail, which does look a little iffy. Moving down into the arms, you do have arm articulation forward and back right there, and it doesn't really come out away from the body, maybe slightly. That's about it. And then you do also have elbow articulation forward and back, which is nice. That cannot swivel, so it's only forward and back. But then you also have wrist articulation that can swivel all the way around if you choose to. and then also a little bit of leeway forward and back with the wrist, which is pretty decent. The detail in the hand is super muted though, but the paintwork moving out into the claws is pretty nice. We start out with a dark tone and transition to kind of like a brownish tone for the tips of the nails. The seam for the articulated joint in the wrist, though, is as obvious as it gets, which is kind of awkward looking. And I noticed the same thing with the ankles, like it's really obvious that there is a seam there. But as you move down through the underside, again, the detail continues to look pretty much as it has through the rest of the body. Same deal moving down along the side of the body here of Godzilla. Again, kind of washed out, but kind of decent. Moving down into the leg, I feel like the detail pops a little nicer down here, but continuing to have that very strong set and shine definitely helps to kind of blur the detail out a little bit, like it just shines the detail away. We do also have leg articulation forward and back, which is actually super smooth, and we can move the legs out away from the body, as you can see. You have knee articulation forward and back. I don't think it can swivel. Nah, not really, so just forward and back. And then again, ankle articulation, a little bit of wiggle room forward and back, and also can swivel all the way around. So that's pretty decent. As you move down through the course of the back, we continue to have those white tones highlighting the back of the spines of Godzilla. You do also have a spot of articulation right here, which can go left and right a little bit, up and down a little bit, and swivel. And then as you continue to move down, you still see that paintwork following along the spines of Godzilla, which actually leads the entire way out through the tail, which is nice because sometimes you see the figures kind of give up on the coloration of the spines of Godzilla as you move down. You do also have another spot of articulation right here, which goes side to side and up and down, and again can swivel. And then you've got one more little spot of articulation out here, basically mostly can swivel there, and kind of move up and down and left and right a little bit, but not a whole lot. So overall, it's a pretty decent figure. Again, like the detail is just muted kind of for a lot of the figure, but it does feature some pretty fun articulation. I will say I think the price is a little much for this because it's like $25 for this one, but at the same time, like, it's a whole lot cheaper than price-wise you would get for an SH Monster Arts figure. So like at the same time that I feel like maybe it's a little bit much, it's still pretty decent as far as the quality for the price. But definitely fun to see a whole new style to these Godzilla figures. And then we also again have the Atomic Breath, which you can see is basically a translucent blue. Has some okay looking detailing to it as well, which is pretty neat. You can actually see straight down the center of the Atomic Breath. And then again a lower jaw here, which does have the teeth painted out. And that's really about it. Like the detail is almost non-existent on the actual, underside of the lower jaw and everything. But I'm intrigued to see what it looks like with this in, so let's go ahead and check that out. So there is our Godzilla with his kind of puny atomic breath coming out, but I will say it's actually kind of a pain in the butt to get the lower jaw off when you don't have the atomic breath in. I feel like this one should be pretty easy because you just need to pull the atomic breath and it'll pop that lower jaw right out. But when it's just the lower jaw with no atomic breath, it's a little bit more complicated to get it out because it's hard to actually grab a hold of it, but it does come off. As far as the size goes for the figure, you are looking at height-wise right around 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters, and then for a length from the tail to the snout of Godzilla, about 9 3/4 inches or around 24.5 centimeters. And then if we actually go from the tail to the atomic breath, about 11 inches or 28 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Godzilla. And as you can see, it's not that huge. I thought originally coming into this, the size, when I ordered this, I thought the size would be kind of similar to your usual Bandai releases, but this one's actually a little bit smaller. So to show you that, here is a standard-sized Godzilla figure from Bandai, as we have Titanosaurus here next to the Godzilla 2004. And obviously you can see there's just more body mass, taller. Everything about the standard-sized Godzilla, well, obviously this is Titanosaurus, but the standard-sized Bandai Godzilla figure is a little bit bigger than these new versions. And it's pretty close to the same thing when you bring in an SH Monster Arts Godzilla. You can see again that there is a good bit of a size difference between the two, between this new style Godzilla compared to your average SH Monster Arts Godzilla. And then we've got the Hiya Toys Godzilla King of the Monsters, which as you can see is definitely a whole lot bigger than this Bandai Godzilla. The Hiya Toys figures are usually pretty decent in size, and very clearly they massively outsize these new Bandai figures. And then for one side profile with a Bandai Godzilla, we have the Burning Godzilla here next to the new, again, 2004 version of the Bandai Godzilla, the more articulated version. And obviously, again, you can see pretty significant size difference here. So these brand new Bandai articulated Godzilla figures are pretty fun, but I don't know if I'm sold on the line quite yet. I am heavily considering getting a hold of the Godzilla -1 once that one releases. I actually don't have any Godzilla -1 figures in my collection so far. And again, at $25, that's not a bad way to start. Go ahead and grab that one and see how it is. And, you know, again, if it's not that great past that point, I may give up on this line, but I kind of would really like to see more. Like, even though this figure's not great, it's not bad either. I think the worst part about it is the satin shine that it has going on for no reason whatsoever. It really would be a lot nicer if it didn't have that. I feel like the figure would still look pretty cool if it was in like a water type setting, like if you had some sort of a water display. It has that wet look, like it just came up out of the ocean, so that kind of makes it look neat in a way, but I would have preferred it to not have that look. But overall, again, the figure is decently sculpted, a little muted in the detail, but not too bad. A lot of the areas have fairly nice looking detail. The paintwork is kind of like your run-of-the-mill paintwork for Godzilla. There's not a whole lot to it. It's basically just a black with some paint running along the spines and the nails painted. The eyes are painted nicely, I will say that, but it's nowhere near the high quality you see on like SH Monster Arts or something like that. I feel like even when it comes to your standard Bandai figures, it's not even quite at that point as far as the paintwork goes, but it's not bad at the same time. Again, it's okay for what it is. The articulation is fun. It's definitely a nice addition. I love the fact that there is so much of it because I am a pretty big fan of articulated figures, and for the most part it works pretty smoothly, which is a plus. Some of the areas like the wrist and ankles have kind of awkward seams, but for the most part the articulation is pretty decent. The jaw, not so much, but it's okay again as far as the articulation goes, but still not something I would say is super articulated. It's almost there. If there was more articulation in the tail and the jaw worked a little better, I would say it's kind of like a super articulated version, but again, it's definitely fun to see more added articulation onto these. The atomic breath is fun, but very short and kind of awkward looking, and the jaw is kind of hard to pull off to replace it with the jaw featuring the atomic breath. But overall, it is a pretty fun figure. Again, not sure if I'm sold, but I'm very intrigued at this point, so I'm probably going to have to pick up that Godzilla -1 version and check that one out. We'll see how that is. But if you are interested in grabbing this and adding it to your collection, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on Amazon.com right now, because that is exactly where I purchased mine. So make sure you check that link, grab this if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.